Lady Dimitrescu is widely known to the entire Resident Evil community at this point. Even back in April of 2021, prior to Village's release, she quickly became the most popular Resident Evil character. So sit down and strap in, because today we're going to be delving into the horrific backstory of Lady Dimitrescu. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alcina was born into the noble Dimitrescu family sometime before the Great War, and through this ancestry inherited a hereditary blood disease, possibly Porphyria cutanea tarda. Although her family traced their origins to Caesar, one of the four founders of an isolated mountain village in Europe, Alcina herself lived elsewhere, perhaps through a cadet branch. Sometime in her youth, likely in the 1930s, she had a brief music career in the emerging jazz scene, where she went by the name Miss D and played with a band called the Paul Boys in the aftermath of the Second World War and the abolition of the nobility. Dimitrescu returned to her family's former lands, which had fallen under the control of a neo-pagan cult worshipping the Black God. Prior to 1958, at the age of 44, Dimitrescu was lured by the cult leader, Mother Miranda, to a crypt beneath the village cemetery, where she was surgically implanted with the Cadeau parasite. The purpose of this experiment was to determine her viability as a candidate who could become the host of the parasitic intelligence at a later date. This experiment mutated Alcina's body considerably, granting her regenerative capabilities, retractable claw-like nails, and the ability to transform into a dragon-like monster and back again. Moreover, the parasite halted her aging process, maintaining her appearance perpetually. In spite of these impressive biological changes, the resulting mutation did not nullify her blood disease. As a result, Dimitrescu needed a ready supply of fresh human blood to maintain her health, and was therefore judged by Miranda to be a failure. Although Dimitrescu was no use as a host, her claim to Castle Dimitrescu was recognized by Miranda, and she was allowed to take residence in the village as one of the four lords, who would maintain order over their native peasantry while aiding Miranda in Cadeau research. Upon inhabiting the estate, Dimitrescu took over her family's vineyard and wine distribution business as a means of supporting herself. Relishing in her reclaimed noble status, Dimitrescu developed extreme caste-based views of society, seeing herself as second to only Miranda herself. She openly loathed the other three house lords, particularly Karl Heisenberg, whom she frequently argued with. She privately bemoaned she was not Miranda's favorite, instead being treated the same as all the others. Despite this, Dimitrescu's alliance with the other houses allowed her to rule her castle with barbarous cruelty, regularly taking in new staff to replace those who had been taken to her dungeon to be killed and drained of their blood for sustenance. Dimitrescu's own experiments with the Cadeau appear to have been limited, as the only confirmed instance was an experiment begun by Miranda and monitored by Dimitrescu. In this experiment, the corpses of three women were implanted with Cadeau parasites. Over the course of about a week, the Cadeau produced fly-like organisms, which then consumed the flesh of all three bodies, having assimilated the DNA of these three women. The flies merged to mimic their human shapes and slowly adapted their likenesses. Dimitrescu immediately formed a bond with these three women, whom she named Bella, Daniela, and Cassandra, and came to regard herself as their mother. They obeyed Dimitrescu without question, and they were similar to her in the way that they were ageless and reliant on vampirism for sustenance. However, they were incapable of withstanding cold temperatures, thus being trapped within the confines of Alcina's castle. Over the next 70 years, Dimitrescu and her daughters systematically consumed the flesh and blood of local peasants and servants alike. The blood of maids was extracted and combined with grapes to create Sanctus Virginis, Latin for maiden's blood, a traditional Dimitrescu family wine. The female victims were infected with mold and lived on as Moroeka or Samka, while the male victims were consumed and then hollowed out to be turned into scarecrows for the castle's vineyard. Dimitrescu's region of terror was not without resistance. However, as one villager is known to have stolen the family heirloom, the Dagger of Death's Flowers, in an attempt to assassinate her with its poisoned blade. The attempt failed and he was buried with the dagger in the Tower of Worship to keep it hidden from any others who might seek to harm her. In February 2022, Miranda's search for a viable host was finally fulfilled with the discovery of Rosemary Winters, a superhuman born to an American family afflicted by the mold. In the early hours of Tuesday, February 9th, Miranda returned to the village with the stolen baby, and Dimitrescu was entrusted with keeping Rose safe, who was set to be ritualistically mutilated. Each of the lords was given possession of a flask containing a different body part of the child, with Dimitrescu being charged with guarding the head flask. With these body parts, Miranda planned to revive the baby with the mold in order to turn her into a host for her deceased daughter, Eva. As a considerable biomass was required to accomplish this feat, Miranda ordered the four lords to murder their servants and the villagers by the end of the morning. Anyone who remained in Dimitrescu's employ was brutally slaughtered or turned into a lichen. Along with the other three lords, Alcina attended an emergency meeting to discuss how to deal with Ethan Winters, Rose's father, who had been captured and put on trial before Miranda in the houses. Alcina implored Miranda give to her custody over Winters, claiming that her daughters loved to entertain foreigners. Even so, Miranda decided to let Heisenberg dispose of Winters instead, prompting a loud argument between Dimitrescu and Heisenberg. Winters managed to escape Heisenberg, and believing that Rose might be in Dimitrescu's domain, he entered her castle. Alcina's three daughters quickly found and subdued him, bringing him before Lady Dimitrescu herself. Although Alcina's daughters planned to consume Winters, Alcina informed them she would have to tell Mother Miranda first and commanded them to incapacitate Winters instead, ordering them to impale both of his hands with sickle chains and suspend him from the ceiling. Prying himself free in due course, Winters traversed the halls of Castle Dimitrescu in search of his daughter, only to be cornered by Daniela, Bella, and Cassandra throughout, eventually killing Bella by exposing her to the cold air outside. Upon discovering her daughter's remains, Alcina demanded Cassandra find and kill him, despite Miranda's orders that Winters be kept alive. In spite of the family's efforts, Daniela and Cassandra soon fell to Winters as well, forcing Alcina to find him herself. Alcina caught Winters trying to sneak into her bedroom, and falsely claiming that she never had Rose to begin with, she pummeled him through the floor in a fit of rage, inadvertently allowing him to escape through the catacombs below. Dimitrescu followed closely behind, declaring she would hunt him down and break him for killing her daughters, prompting Winters to definitely snarl back at her. However, he did not get far before having his hand sliced off by Alcina, who interposed with sadistic resolution that he would pay with his life for insulting House Dimitrescu and ending her bloodline. As Winters entered the Dimitrescu family crypt, Alcina grabbed him from behind and impaled him through the stomach with her claws. Winters counterattacked this by stabbing her in the side with the Dagger of Death's Flowers, but lost the blade after being flung through a glass window by Alcina. Suffering from the effects of the unique blend of poisons in the dagger, Dimitrescu began to mutate exponentially and took on the form of a massive, winged, dragon-like creature. The two fought on the rooftops of the castle, with Dimitrescu's size making it difficult for her to catch him, even breaking a hole in the wall, which allowed him to ascend a tower. As she began to calcify while climbing the stairs after him, Dimitrescu made one final attempt at killing Winters by pulling him down with her as she plummeted to the castle grounds below. Realizing that Winter survived the fall, she cursed his name one last time before crumbling to pieces, leaving only her crystallized remains left intact. With her death, the Dimitrescu family was ended once and for all. There you have it, guys, the full story of Alcina Dimitrescu. I have another video like this coming up, but for Albert Wesker. And if you guys want me to do videos like this for every single lord, be sure to drop a comment below and like and subscribe if you're new on the channel. And I'll see you all in the next episode of Bagels Battle.